Welcome to the Jury Box Show with me, Melissa Peace Tomeno, attorney at law. Court is in session. All rise for the jury. Now let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Jury Box Show. I'm Melissa Peace Tomeno, and I'm a personal injury attorney in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. But today, we are taking things to the criminal court. I want to talk about the shooting that happened during the making of the Rust movie. A lot of people know about this because the actor Alec Baldwin is tied up in this case and is actually facing some serious criminal charges in connection with the shooting, which resulted in someone dying. It also resulted in someone being shot, so it wasn't great. There's already been one person involved here who was found by a jury to be guilty of involuntary manslaughter. I thought this case was especially relevant because Alec Baldwin, who a lot of us know from Beetlejuice, 30 Rock from the Sun, God, he's been in dozens of movies. He was charged in this case and actually indicted for involuntary manslaughter. This shooting happened back in October of 2021. At the relevant time, the cast and some of the crew were rehearsing for a scene that was going to be actually filmed later on that afternoon. Now, at this time, they were inside of a church. Alec Baldwin was in his full cowboy gear, and I'm actually going to play a clip right now that is going to show what this looked like. It was a video that was actually provided by the family of the victim here, Helena Hutchins. She was a cinematographer, highly lauded in the industry, and was actually hand-selected by this movie's director, Joel Souza, to act as the cinematographer on the film. So, unfortunately, while she was the one who was helping to capture the, beautiful scenery in New Mexico, she lost her life here. And the other person who was wounded was actually the movie's director, Joel Souza. Now, thankfully, he survived his gunshot. He was able to be treated, and it seems like he had a full recovery, which is great. So let's look at this clip. And again, this is the illustrated film that was provided by the estate for Helena Hutchins, the victim here. And it basically shows what allegedly happened during the shooting. So I'm just going to stop it. Obviously, that is supposed to be Alec Baldwin. And I should mention that he was not only the star of this movie, but he was a producer. So he had a lot of responsibility in terms of ensuring that the movie set was safe. So there are sort of two angles that the prosecutors are coming at in terms of Mr. Baldwin, both in terms of him pulling the trigger and him being a producer on this film. And I want to point out that the person who just was shot in this clip is supposed to represent Helena Hutchins. And then right sort of behind her is supposed to be Joel Souza, who again was the movie's director. I want to point out also that during this time, even though you see cameras and they're still in their costumes, they were just rehearsing. They were not supposed to be filming for, the actual movie at this point. They were setting up the shot. I thought this was really interesting, and I wanted to stop it so that you can see. And I didn't know this before even watching this video, but there's a hole in the bullet in the sort of dummy round, whereas the live round, it doesn't have that hole. And I don't believe that anyone here is alleging that Alec Baldwin loaded this gun, or that he even knew that the gun was loaded. That would be helpful just to understand what exactly happened here. The case was recently back in the news because Alec Baldwin's attorneys recently filed a motion to dismiss the case against him. They are alleging that the case was completely mishandled by the prosecutors and that the grand jury's indictment should have never went forward. I want to just read a little bit of what was included in the motion to dismiss. Baldwin's lawyers have accused the New Mexico prosecutors of a litany of abuses and are seeking to have the case dismissed. Among the allegations is a claim that Morrissey, the lead prosecutor on the case, repeatedly leaked confidential information about the grand jury proceedings to an NBC News reporter. In November, Baldwin's attorney, Luke Nikas, filed a motion for sanctions over that issue, seeking to have Morrissey and her co-counsel Jason Lewis removed from the case and asking the court to impose monetary penalties against Morrissey. So that's some pretty serious allegations. In the motion, Baldwin's attorneys also argued that the prosecution failed to make witnesses available to the grand jury who would have testified that it was not the actor's duty to inspect the gun before the scene. And that's a big deal. Now, if you've been following this case, you might remember that just recently, the lead armorist on this film, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter by a jury. One of the jurors who was interviewed after the case said that the main reason why they believe that she was guilty here is because she was the one who provided the gun and who provided the bullet. They're going to have a hard time getting a jury to find him guilty of involuntary manslaughter when he had no idea that this gun was loaded, or that it contained live rounds versus the dummy rounds that we just saw in that clip. Baldwin's lawyers wanted jurors to hear testimony from Joel Souza, the movie's director, as well as first assistant director Dave Halls, producer Ryan Smith, and other witnesses who they believed would have been helpful to Baldwin. The defense also alleges that prosecutor Morrissey relied heavily on the state's expert witness, Brian Carpenter, who, according to the motion, stated that the actor was responsible for the safe handling of firearms. To me, I would think that the lead armorist, or someone on the armorist team at least, would be responsible for the firearms. I don't know why the actor would be responsible for the firearms when they literally have a whole department for that purpose. So I feel like that's a bit of a stretch on the prosecutor's end there. I don't think they're going to get a jury to believe that Alec Baldwin, an actor in this movie, was responsible for the safe handling of the firearms on this movie. Now, he might have had a responsibility based on his training, based on his experience in the film industry, to have known that he should never have pointed a gun at anybody, especially when rehearsing, whether he believed the gun was loaded or not. So the prosecutors may get some sway on that argument, but I don't think that they could win on the argument that Alec Baldwin was just responsible for the firearm handling on the film. I just don't think that's going to work. The defense attorneys here for Baldwin also accuse the prosecutor of engaging in vindictive and malicious conduct from start to finish. And this is a quote: "The state had one goal: indict Baldwin, no matter the truth, no matter the rules or the court rulings, no matter what it took to do so. The motion to dismiss also states that Prosecutor Morrissey was an unnamed source for ABC News who basically said that the prosecution was attempting to humble Baldwin and that this was a teachable moment. So basically that she leaked information to NBC News, and that was a big no-no. So, this motion to dismiss is interesting, likely not going to win. I'm sure that the judge is going to want at least some testimony on the issue in court, as well as to hear from experts. Now, I wasn't able to find the complete motion to dismiss, so I don't know, the entire merits of the motion, but I thought we should at least hear from Alec Baldwin himself. I tried to get him on the phone. Him and Ilaria were very busy this weekend. They have 10, 12, 13 kids. We do have a clip of Alec Baldwin, co-starring Hilaria Baldwin, which was taken in a sort of impromptu roadside press conference. So let's take a look and hear what Alec Baldwin had to say. I should point out that this was shortly after the shooting. So this is not a recent clip. This was in the time, shortly following the shooting.
By the Sheriff's Department in Santa Fe. I can't answer any questions about the investigation. I can't. It's an active investigation in terms of a woman dying. She was my friend. She was my friend. The day I arrived in Santa Fe to start shooting, I took her to dinner with Joel, the director. We were a very, very, well-oiled crew shooting a film together, and then this horrible event happened.
You met
What
with,
are the questions that you have other than that?
You met with I'm afraid I forget her name at the moment, but you met with her family in the day.
Yes,
her
I
name
met with
is
her
Helena. If you're spending this much time waiting for us, you should
don't know her
her name. Her name is Helena.
Helena Hutchins. I met with her husband Matthew and her son. Yeah, that's right.
And how did that meeting go?
I wouldn't know how to characterize it. They're mortified.
You guys, you know what? No details.
Do me a favor. I'm gonna answer the question.
Well, I appreciate that he was probably very upset.
The guy is overwhelmed with grief. This is something that there are incidental accidents on film sets from time to time, but nothing like this. This is a 1 in a trillion episode.
Is it entirely surprising that Alec Baldwin is denying any real guilt in this matter right now? It is not surprising. But it is surprising that the charges against him, which again, involuntary manslaughter, was brought against him initially and then dismissed and then rebrought. He was offered a plea deal, which is similar to the one that was offered to David Halls, who was a producer on this movie, which I believe lessened the charges to a misdemeanor, no jail time. And apparently, according to the motion to dismiss, Baldwin didn't have a chance to accept or reject the plea deal that was offered to him by the prosecutors because they withdrew the plea deal before he could respond. But with that being said, at this point, Alec Baldwin's attorneys are doing all they can, I think, to get this case dismissed. Will it happen? I don't know. Because like I said, the jury found Hannah Gutierrez guilty. Now, she was the lead armorer. She brought the gun. She loaded the gun. I think it makes sense, and I think the jury made the right decision there. It's harsh, but, that was her job, and ultimately, this was kind of why this happened. Now, with Alec Baldwin, again, it's twofold. There's Alec Baldwin, whose involvement here is due to his pulling of the trigger. And there's Alec Baldwin, a producer of this movie, who, according at least to the state, failed to provide a safe working environment for the actors and the crew and the people who were working on this movie. They say that because apparently, and at least allegedly, There were a lot of safety protocols that weren't being followed, especially with respect to the guns. During Hannah Gutierrez's trial, there was an expert who testified on behalf of the state. I think he was a sort of expert in armory with respect to movies and, movie shooting. And he basically said that normally there would be no bullets, there would be no ammunition, dummy rounds, whatever, just sitting on a cart on set. Because here, the armorist, Hannah Gutierrez, had a cart that was actually photographed and used during the time of trial to show that it was just kind of very like willy-nilly. The ammunition wasn't kept somewhere safe. And they eventually were able to prove that she was the one who brought the live ammunition to set when there should never have been live ammunition on this set. I don't think that they are going to be able to get Alec Baldwin on him being the one who pulled the trigger, because no one has ever alleged that he knew that the gun was loaded with live ammunition. No one has ever alleged that he intentionally pulled the trigger so as to cause harm, physical harm, death, whatever injury to anybody on this movie. That has never been alleged. No one is saying that. And I don't think that even though Alec Baldwin should have known that you should never point a gun at anybody, whether you think it's loaded or not, I don't think that's enough to get him on the involuntary manslaughter. I do think that they might have enough based on his role in production and trying to save costs. Hannah only had very limited experience as an armorist on a film set, nevertheless a lead armorist. Her dad was really experienced. Her dad is like a famous armorist and has done dozens, hundreds of movies, but she hadn't. She was trained by him, but she didn't have that experience, at least as alleged by the state, to have been the lead armorist for this movie. So we're gonna have to see what will happen here with Alec Baldwin. Will his case be dismissed? Will the state answer? I'm sure that they will. I'm sure that they're going to provide a response. And if not, will his trial move forward in July? I wonder if they would put him on the stand to testify in his own defense. Usually you're not going to see that. I don't think that his attorneys would do that. Even though he's an actor, I think being cross-examined especially would really rattle him and might cause him to sort of break his composed, sympathetic feeling self. So let's see though. Listen, I'm going to be watching this trial from start to finish if it happens and talking about it with you all. In fact, I'm going to be making a video soon about a phone call that was recorded between Alec Baldwin and one of the detectives on the case. And I think it's very interesting because you sort of see Alec Baldwin setting up his defense while constantly being interrupted by his wife, Ilaria, because he's giving her directions. Like, you can't just use Google, guys. You're millionaires. Get a TomTom. I mean, something. Jeez. Make sure that you subscribe because I don't want you to miss anything related to this case. It is fascinating. And until next time, all rise for the jury. Thank you for joining us. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you think that you have your own personal injury case, including but not limited to a motor vehicle accident, dog bite, medical malpractice, or premises liability, email me at thejuryboxshow@gmail.com for a free consultation where we can discuss possibly helping you or connecting you with someone who can.